Hello everybody, welcome into the HobbyBarr. This is Jason. Welcome. Today we'll be continuing this guy, a Gene Stealer called Clamavus from Warhammer 40k. Wanna start building up layers on him, get the colors going other than just having base coats on him. So with that, go ahead and get tucked in with them. If you do any hobbying, feel free to jump in, join along. If not, that's cool too. Hope you enjoy. So, first color we're going to do today is, it's going to be a little mixture of the Vallejo Gaming Red with some Citadel Yriel Yellow. So what I'm doing with this is basically making an orange between the two. This way I can go ahead and get it into the recesses and shade some areas up. So we'll go ahead and get started with that here, and I'll be doing it for all the yellow portions on them, all the robes. Didn't really put any on the metals because wasn't sure where I was going with some of the metals yet. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get tucked in with this, and while it's fast forwarding, we can talk about some admin stuff again. So start the fast forward right about now. Alrighty, while it's fast forwarding, I did kind of forget about the battery again. And I didn't do as much work off stream as the first one for base coating, but yeah, some of the metals get changed up towards the end, and we'll discuss it later. But it is what it is. I'll get better about it here one of these times. And other than that though, did get interrupted a couple of times with phone calls or other things coming up, so yeah, kind of a jumbled mess on this episode. But anyway, we'll go ahead and keep working on this red and yellow mixture here for the ink and the layer paint, and I'll catch up with you when we move on to just the layer paint to build up the mid-tone color here on these. So catch up with you all in a bit. Alrighty, here we are using just the other side of the paint, the Yriel Yellow. And what we're going to do now is build up some of the middle tone again, like clean up some of the areas that I might have gotten some of the orangish color on. And some of the highlight areas, basically base coat some of the highlight areas and coat the middle tone areas. Get them back to a bright yellow on the cloak, or on the robes. And yeah, we'll go around doing this, and it'll we'll go ahead and get this cleaned up, and yeah, move on to the next color, which will be a little bit of experimenting, and before settling down on a different color for it. So, catch up with y'all here in a little bit when we get to that part. Alrighty, here we are trying out some Zamesi Desert, I believe it's called. It is a yellowish brown, and I figured it would be desaturated enough that I could use it as a highlight color. So I mixed in some of the Yriel Yellow just to bring it up to more of a brighter yellow tone. And then when I applied it, I looked at it and said, you know what, that's sort of not what I was looking to do. So go ahead and clean up the brush, and we move on to some Vallejo Pale Yellow. Get quite a bit of it ready, even though I won't be using nearly that much. And we're going to come in and highlight the raised areas on this, and all over the ropes. We'll go ahead and get it highlighted in this pale yellow. This way it's desaturated a bit. It's not quite the same desaturation as on the Magos, but it helps pick out the raised areas nicely and show that difference in color. Yellow's kind of tough to highlight with because generally when you're highlighting you move towards yellow or towards green. General rule of thumb. So that's why it's sort of awkward and can be difficult. But I find going towards a pale yellow tends to just work fine. Going towards white with it. Even though sometimes some would say you don't want to highlight with white. That's a whole debate for art for another time. Anyway, we'll go ahead and put this around on all the highlights. And I'll catch up with you all here on the next color. Alrighty, here we are moving on to some Agrax Earthshade. I wanted to get the pants shaded, start getting some wash on the pants, this way it's not just a flat Steel Legion drab, and get some of that detail picked out and some depth in that color. So, gonna use good old Agrax Earthshade, now that I can remember the name of it, since I used it. Like the last episode where last episode or two ago, where I couldn't remember it for the life of me. But, yeah, we'll go ahead and get this on his brown pants, and then we'll move on to the next color here shortly. Alright, now next up we are moving on to the skin. So we're going to start off with some Warpfiend Grey. And this I'm sort of using as the mid-tone on the skin. I kind of want to leave some of the darker areas potentially shining through with the Demonette hide. So we're going to go ahead and use Warpfiend Grey and sort of put it on all the mid to high areas of the skin. While painting it, I sort of remembered what I did on the female mages, so I'm gonna kind of work my way towards that color range, but still start at the darker range like the male mages dude over there. So, goal is to kind of have him in between the two, was what I was thinking, and we'll see how it goes here in a little bit. Anyway, we'll finish coating his skin with some of this Warpfiend Grey again, and I'll catch up with y'all here on the next color when we move on to highlighting his skin. So catch up with you here in a bit. Alrighty, here we are moving on to Slaanesh Grey. So, Slaanesh Grey is the highlight color here of these three colors. Demon Head to Warpfiend to Slaanesh Grey. And, yeah, we'll go ahead and highlight basically all the top areas and pick out some of the details on his skin and stuff. Try not to get it too hard in the recesses, but, yeah, it's kind of hard to do sometimes. But I wanted to get this color down for the highlight on the skin, pick out some of those ridges on his forehead and stuff. And we'll go ahead and get this color around, and then we'll come in with a wash to sort of try to bring it all back together. And hide some of the lines between the two of them. Alright, so we'll go ahead and get this color done up with the Slaanesh Grey on all the highlights on the skin. I'll catch up with y'all here in a little bit for the next color. Alrighto, next up, I'm gonna pull out some contrast paint here. This is Magos Purple. So for this color, I didn't dilute it with contrast medium. That was the only downside. I sort of just took it from the pot, slapped it on, was like, oh yeah, this is what I did on the female mages, and forgot that I also thinned it down a little bit when I put it on the lady mages there. So, yeah, it's going to be a little thicker on this guy, and it's going to tint his skin a lot more, to a lot stronger degree on him. So, oopsies. But, yeah, he can just have a more reddish, purplish hue of a skin, whatever you want to call it. And, can be a little bit darker than his brother and sister over there. But, yeah, we'll go ahead and get this over all of his skin. And then we'll be moving on to the next color here in a little bit. So catch up with you all then. Alright, next up we are moving on to some Vallejo Gunmetal of their game color line. For this, I want to go around and use it to highlight some of the more metal bits on the mini. Pick out some of the details on them and stuff. Before maybe coming in with a silver. I don't think I want to go that bright on most of them. Because, you know, he's out in the field. He shouldn't have super clean equipment, but some of it can be kind of clean. And still shiny and stuff. So, went around, picked out some of the details on it. I'll still have to come in with the silver and pick out some of the dials and stuff. Maybe some of the copper and gold and pick out other items on them. But, gotta go ahead and go around with the gunmetal and pick out some details on them. Hit the, kind of do a bit of overbrushing, but I do it a little heavy-handed, so it's not quite the effect I wanted. But I can always hit it with some Nuln Oil and knock it back down. on his thigh plate there, next to the still white bag, which I'm thinking I'll just hit that with contrast paint, the snakebite leather, just to make it a different sort of leather. Same with the gun holster on his hip. Both those will probably just be snakebite leather. This way it's a different looking color than the pants will end up being. Not sure if I want to highlight the pants and make them a light tan yet, but we'll figure that out here in a bit. Anyway, we'll finish up with the gunmetal here on his armor and various portions of the metals. I'll catch up with you all here in a little bit when we move on to the next color. Alright, now we're coming back to the Viejo black ink on this one. And I kind of wanted to make it look more like a speaker in the, for his staff. Instead of just being metal in there, I wanted to give it that sort of dark speaker look. So, coming in with the black ink just to hit that area. Kind of gets where I kind of want it. I might come back in with some metallic dry brush just to bring it up just a hint. But we'll figure that out here later and re-attack that. But we're kind of up to the stage where we're going to be swapping around on paints a lot because it's picking out some of the smaller details, and basically I just started going through some colors back and forth on various things. So be ready for a lot of color switching here coming up. Yeah, we'll finish up with the black ink here on this, and I'll catch up with you here in a little bit for a bunch of other color swapping around. Alright, so for the first color during this whole swap around-a-thon, I wanted to come in with some blue and pick out the area, the sort of speaker bit on the chest armor. So, got some color in there, and we're going to move on to grabbing some red, and want to use the red here on some of the wiring still going around on him. Because I want to have a red wire going like over his shoulder and stuff. But I need to let that dry before I could put a second coat on it. So then I moved on to adding some of the gold back in here because I needed to touch up the gold. So we want to hit the edge of his armor with the gold, but gold kind of matches in with the yellow robe a bit more than I liked. So I actually come back with, well, once the battery dies, I come back in with some of the Army Painter True Copper and go over the gold areas with copper. Figure he's in the field, he probably won't have the newest, shiniest, latest, greatest kind of armor. He's not like the maguses who are sitting around leading the cult. So, figure he can have copper around around his head and for the edge of the armor instead of the gold that the maguses have. But for now, I'm base coating him with gold. Same with the icon on the that's hanging from his waist by the chain. I hit that with gold initially, and then I did the arm length test, and wasn't really happy with how it looked because it kind of blended in with the robe that he has on. So I ended up swapping that to copper later as well, and same with the little charms on his back because he has some, I guess, cassette tapes or whatever you want to call them on the back. I ended up changing all of those to true copper. But sadly that's not on stream because I'm sort of a doofus and forgot to swap out the battery, and after letting the device cool I was sort of in the groove again and just wanted to get it done. Figured it wouldn't take too long. But the gold kind of is sort of what takes a little while longer out of all of this process. So while doing the gold, we'll go ahead and fast forward here to the next color. So after the gold, we come back in with the gunmetal to hit the chains on his waist. The little clacky noise is coming from a brush rubbing against the arm that's holding the magnifying ring light up. Not using it today while picking out some of these details because I'm a dummy, but mostly because most of these details aren't that small. And I generally don't like using the magnifying lamps, just because it's a little harder to get depth on them, since usually you can't use both eyes on them, but sometimes you can. It's a little awkward to get used to, and usually when I'm using it I end up out of frame, so just need to get used to using it. But yeah, we'll go ahead and hit this with finish up the gunmetal, and then we move on to some of the blue ink. So we grabbed some more of the blue ink, and I wanted to put this in the goggles on his face. So I tried some purple ink a little bit and didn't really like how that looked, so I went back in with the blue and got it to be blue in his face. And after that, I was like, you know, we could use a bit more gunmetal in some of these things, so grab some more of the gunmetal, come back in, picking out some of the details on his armor with the gunmetal around the microphone area. And then, yeah, decide to change colors again. Like, this whole process of highlighting, I kind of jump around a lot. So, this last bit, I grabbed some red color because I want to put like a red light on the front of his staff. And make sure that the red is good on the wire that goes over his shoulder. But with all that, the last little bit was me trying to use the true copper. Before the battery died, I decided to cut out most of that footage because as good as the colors are, the Army Painter colors tend to leak a lot more than I feel they should. So it's kind of obnoxious. With that though, we're on to the last call. And for this last call, I'm just giving a spin of the guy from a couple different angles. You can see some of the additional work done when the battery died. I was sort of too caught up in the groove. It wasn't as bad as last time. Next time, probably just continue working on colors, get the blue parts done up, maybe work on the book a bit, continue working on the staff, and maybe bring his skin tone up a little. I don't know. I think I like the skin tone where it is, because it's a little different from the rest of the army. But yeah, go ahead and leave that there for this week. And yeah, here's the other angle for the boy. And it's coming along pretty nicely. Maybe another couple hours of work and you'll be good to go. But with that, go ahead and sign off from here. And hope you all have a good one out there. Take care, everyone.